Mia had always loved her backyard pool more than almost anything else in the world, and she spent every possible free moment diving off the edges and feeling the cool water against her skin under the bright sun. It was painted a bright turquoise blue that seemed to glow when the midday light hit the surface, and the way it sparkled made her feel like she was swimming inside a precious gemstone. Every morning after breakfast, she would grab her colorful towel, slip on her favorite goggles, and practice graceful flips and smooth turns to perfect her diving skills as birds sang overhead. She worked hard each afternoon to keep the pool clean by skimming away leaves and twigs, testing the water's pH with a small kit, and carefully adjusting the chemicals until the liquid was perfectly clear. Her parents had helped her paint the wide wooden deck a crisp, clean white last spring, and the bright contrast made the deep water look even more inviting and azure from every angle. But this summer a new sound began to reach her ears when the sun dipped below the horizon, a faint but persistent splashing echoing through the warm evening air beyond her bedroom window under a sky of stars. At first Mia thought it was just the wind shifting against the fence posts, or maybe a stray cat jumping into a nearby watering trough to quench its thirst in the quiet dusk. Yet the splashing grew steadily louder over several nights until the gentle lapping of water against tile became a clear and rhythmical series of sounds that kept her awake. Shadows started to dance along the slats of her bedroom blinds, and she watched with puzzled worry as dark shapes moved in the backyard just beyond the glass. One quiet evening, she finally decided to investigate, slipping on her soft slippers and tiptoeing down the hall with her heart beating fast in her chest. Through the small window near the landing, she spotted two figures carefully stepping over the low wooden fence into the glowing water, their outlines blurred by the rippling surface. They wore loose t-shirts and old board shorts, and the moonlight caught the edge of their shoe soles as they waded slowly into the shallow end, laughing low enough to think they were unheard. Mia pressed her forehead against the cool glass, hunched over the windowsill, and clutched the frame until her knuckles turned white with determination and shock. She felt a surge of anger and disbelief that someone would use her private pool without asking, as if they had broken an unspoken rule about respect and courtesy. She recognized them as two neighborhood boys named Jack and Leo, who seemed to think it was hilarious to trespass and treat her yard like a free amusement park at night. Their sneaking visits had happened nearly every night for a week, and each morning Mia found new footprints in the deck's faded wooden boards and discarded wrappers floating near the steps. Broken soda cans, sweet snack wrappers, and bits of old string floated at the pool edge as silent evidence of their careless fun, and she had grown tired of cleaning up after their silly pranks. Tonight, however, Mia vowed that she would not stand by while they treated her property and her pride like a cheap playground, because letting them continue felt like encouraging them to push the limits. After hiding behind the living room curtain, she crept towards the back door, careful to place each foot on the soft rug instead of the creaking hardwood floor that could give away her position. She paused at the door handle, steeling her nerves as the faint voices on the deck sounded as clear as whispers in her ear, each joke and splash echoing through the still night. When she lifted the doors slightly, she felt the warm breeze mixed with wet chlorinated mist brushing against her face, and the scent gave her both calm and dread. Mia tiptoed outside and crouched behind a large potted palm near the pool's edge, where the thick leaves hid her small frame and let her watch the boys without being seen. From her hidden spot, she saw Jack pick up a deflated inflatable flamingo and squeeze it until water spurted out, sending Leo into a fit of giggles that rattled the glass of her sliding doors. She clenched her fists and held her breath as Leo leaned down to untangle the garden hose, probably intending to spray the water again and cause another messy scene. Mia thought quickly about what tools she had nearby, including a bucket of smooth gray stones and a small battery-powered fountain that sat unused in the corner of her shed. She remembered the old bright green inflatable alligator float with its silly wide grin tucked behind the pump and decided it might be a key part of her plan to trap them in their own game. As the boys moved towards the deep end, she counted silently to 10 and rehearsed her strategy in her mind, picturing how she would startle them using noise and motion. Heart pounding like a drum, she shifted a stone slightly on the deck and listened as it made a soft scraping noise among the wooden slats, hoping the sound would not give away her position. She reached for her phone, planning to catch their foolish behavior on video so she could show her parents exactly who had invaded her private space without permission. Quietly, she tapped the record button and angled the lens toward the pool, making sure the two heads bobbing in the water were clearly visible even under the faint silver light. Her eyes flicked between the screen and the real world as Jack swung the hose in a wild arc, sending a thin spray of water high into the air where it shimmered like dew. Leo let out a loud whoop and splashed his arms to catch the droplets, unaware of the growing tension just a few feet away behind the pot of broad leaves. Mia pressed closer to the plant, steadying her breathing, and reminded herself to wait for the perfect moment when surprise would give her the advantage. She pictured how she would flip the inflatable alligator behind them, so it landed with a loud splash and frightened them into stumbling back. In her mind, she could hear Leo's startled cry and Jack stumbling over his own feet as they realized they had been outsmarted at their own game. A thin layer of moonlight danced on the water's surface, making the moment feel suspenseful and brilliant as both tension and excitement built in her chest. She felt her pulse quicken as she lifted one end of the inflatable from the deck and waited until they moved close enough to spring her trap. Every second felt heavy with possibility, and Mia knew that if she hesitated now, the boys would never learn their lesson and would keep sneaking in again. She drew in a steady breath and prepared to let go of the float, imagining how it would land with a surprising boom that would end their nightly trespasses. With a determined grin and a clear sense of purpose, Mia was ready to send a message that would make Jack and Leo regret daring to treat her pool like their own private playground. The old inflatable alligator bobbed wildly when Mia flung it into the pool, its vibrant green rubber skin gleaming under the pale moonlight before it landed with a thunderous splash that sent droplets dancing over the wooden deck in every direction. Jack lurched backward in surprise, his foot slipping on the damp planks and sending him crashing down onto his side where he winced as rough foot scraped across his elbow and hip. Leo let out a startled whoop and tumbled forward, his board shorts twisting awkwardly around his legs as he scrambled to his knees, palms pressing into the textured deck to steady himself. Mia stepped out from behind the large potted palm, bare feet touching the cool wood, and she inhaled a steadying breath scented with chlorine, jasmine blooms, and the faint sweetness of summer air. Moonlight cast silvery patterns over the pool's surface, and Mia's determined silhouette stood sharp against the rippling water as she folded her arms and fixed the boys with a clear, steady gaze. Jack rubbed his scraped elbow, grimacing at the sting of the wound, while Leo dabbed at his damp hair and blinked rapidly to clear the water from his surprised eyes. Mia's voice was calm but carried easily across the yard when she asked, "Why are you here taking a swim without asking permission first?" as each word floated over the hushed night. Jack swallowed, cheeks flushed in the dim light, and stammered, We thought it'd be fun, Mia, but we didn't mean to upset you or damage anything." Leo nodded earnestly and added, "I'm really sorry. We just saw the pool glowing and couldn't resist, but we should have knocked or asked first." Mia pointed to the litter floating near the edge, candy wrappers curled around the tiles and soda cans drifting like tiny rafts, and waited for them to acknowledge the mess. Jack reached out hesitantly, plucked a soggy wrapper from the water, and handed it to Mia, who took it with a nod and dropped it into a large trash bag she held open. Leo fished out an empty can wedged under the ladder and set it beside the wrapper, the metal clinking softly against the plastic bag as he looked down in shame. Mia handed them both the trash bag and said, "Fill this with every piece of trash you left behind. Then I want you to rinse the deck until it looks as clean as when I first painted it." They moved slowly around the pool, bending and stretching to extract every scrap, each recovered item reminding them of the careless fun that led them here. Jack knelt by the shallow end and scooped milk cartons and plastic cups from between the tiles, water dripping from his fingertips as he dropped them in a bag. Leo stood at the deep end and used both hands to retrieve candy wrappers floating where the pool light faded into shadows, his shoulders hunched in apology. With the bag nearly full, Mia handed Jack the garden hose and showed him how to aim the spray in smooth, steady sweeps that would wash footprints and grime from the wood. Leo grabbed a stiff-bristled broom and began to sweep the remaining debris toward the drain, pushing each piece in long, deliberate strokes that crunched softly against the deck boards. The water arced in a fine mist from the hose, catching the moonlight like tiny stars before landing with soft plinks onto the wood and running off in shining streams. The broom bristles scraped across the deck in a rhythmic whisper, the sound mingling with distant cricket calls and the gentle sway of tree leaves overhead. Jack paused mid-spray and met Mia's eyes, seeing both firmness and fairness reflected in her steady expression as she watched every move they made. Mia explained that respect and trust were like clear water. Once muddied, they took careful effort to become pure again, and tonight's cleanup was only the first step toward earning back her trust. Leo listened intently, nodding as he swept, his hands moving more confidently now that he understood the lesson behind the chore. Mia outlined a plan. For the next 7 days, they would help with specific yard tasks, each day's work earning them a single point toward full forgiveness. Jack asked quietly, "What chores do we need to do?" And Mia gestured toward a small chalkboard on the patio wall where she had already listed tasks for Monday through Sunday. Leo leaned closer to read the neat writing: raking leaves, trimming stray branches, organizing garden tools, and scrubbing the pool tiles before sunrise. Mia gave each boy a pair of gardening gloves and reminded them that showing up on time with a good attitude was as important as the work itself. Once the plan was clear, Mia led them inside to a small table near the sliding door where two soft towels and a pitcher of chilled lemonade glistened in the low light. Jack and Leo sat down on stools and accepted the towels gratefully, the cool fabric easing the dampness on their skin as the day's heat slowly faded. They sipped the sweet lemonade, its tangy flavor refreshing their tired bodies and reminding them of Mia's kindness in offering a reward for their honesty. Mia spoke kindly as they drank, saying that everyone makes mistakes, but those who own up to their errors and work to fix them are the most honorable. Jack exhaled slowly and said, "Thank you for giving us a chance to make things right instead of telling my parents right away." Leo smiled sheepishly and added, "We promise to work hard and never sneak in again without asking you first." Mia felt a surge of pride as she watched the two boys straighten their backs and exchange determined looks. She reminded them that actions matter more than words, and that seeing the clean deck in Clearwater will be proof they truly meant to change. Jack stood up and extended his hand to Mia in a gesture of agreement, which she shook firmly before giving him a gentle nod of approval. Leo followed suit, offering Mia a thumbs up, and for a moment the three of them shared a quiet smile under the porch light. As Mia closed the sliding door behind them, she whispered, "I look forward to seeing you each morning ready to work," and heard both boys reply, "We'll be there." The pool lay still now, its surface reflecting the pale moon and distant stars as if waiting patiently for its new rules to be honored. Mia leaned against the glass and thought to herself that standing up for her boundaries had turned a frustrating intrusion into an opportunity for friendship and growth, a lesson they would all remember. The next morning at dawn, Mia pushed open her sliding door and stepped onto the deck, the clean wood still cool beneath her bare feet as she surveyed the quiet yard. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves in the garden, carrying the soft scent of jasmine and freshly turned soil that wrapped the area in a calm welcome. She glanced at the small chalkboard where she had listed each boy's chores for the week, checking that the tasks were clear and achievable. Soon after, she heard the crunch of gravel in the drive and looked up to see Jack and Leo walking down the path, their heads low but eyes bright with determination. Each held a pair of green gardening gloves, and Mia smiled at their careful steps, glad they had shown up early as promised. Jack carried a sturdy rake, while Leo held a tall broom and a long-handled brush, both looking ready to prove themselves worthy. Mia greeted them warmly and handed Jack a shallow bin for collecting stray leaves along the pool's edge, and she directed Leo to sweep the birdseed from the patio tiles. The two boys nodded and got to work, moving with an energy that mixed eagerness and a little regret for their past mischief. Jack knelt by the pool steps and began raking leaves and petals that had drifted into the water overnight, each sweep sending small ripples outward. Leo focused on the tiled patio, brushing loose debris toward the drain in long arcs that left tidy lines behind. Mia walked between them, observing their steady efforts and offering guidance on technique, such as holding the rake at just the right angle. She pointed out a small patch of moss near the pool ladder and showed Jack how to scrub it away gently without scratching the tiles. Meanwhile, Leo learned to angle the broom with a side-to-side motion that prevented dust from rising in puffs into the air. As they worked, the morning sun climbed higher, warming their shoulders and casting long shadows across the deck. Jonquil flowers in the flower bed nodded in the breeze, and Mia paused to tie back a stray branch that blocked a walkway. The boys noticed her tending the garden and offered to help, picking up small branches and neatly stacking them at the fence. Mia gave a thankful nod and reminded them that a tidy space felt welcoming and safe for everyone who used it. After half an hour of sweeping and raking, they moved on to cleaning the pool tiles with the long-handled brush Leo carried. Mia showed them how to dip the brush gently into the water, then press the bristles against the edge to loosen stubborn grime. Small clouds of sediment swirled into the pool as each stroke cleared years of dirt that had collected unseen. Jack and Leo took turns scrubbing in smooth circles, wiping away the sludge with a soft cloth Mia had provided. Their arms grew tired, but Mia encouraged them to keep steady and reminded them that good work left lasting good impressions. When the tiles sparkled like new, Mia clapped her hands and offered each boy a cool cloth to wipe their foreheads. Grateful for the break, Jack and Leo sat on the deck steps, sipping water Mia handed them from a chilled jug. They thanked her for the drink and admitted that the work was harder than they had expected. Mia smiled and said that responsibility often required effort, but the results were worth every drop of sweat. She pointed toward the grass lawn and assigned them a new task, trimming the edges with the small shears she carried from her shed. Jack accepted the shears and carefully clipped along the border, taking care to cut clean lines without tearing the blades of grass. Leo gathered the trimmed clippings in his bin, making sure none were left to wilt on the soil. The air filled with the sound of snip and rustle as they methodically worked the perimeter of the yard. Mia checked each section and offered praise for their precise cuts, reinforcing the importance of attention to detail. After the grass was done, she pointed out 2 flower pots that needed fresh soil and handed them small trowels and bags of compost. Jack dug carefully, loosening the old earth before Leo scooped the rich compost mix into the planters for newly potted marigolds. They worked side by side, talking quietly about school and summer plans, finding comfort in friendly conversation. Mia listened and joined in, offering stories about her own chores when she was younger and how she learned to find pride in them. By the time they finished, the yard looked bright and welcoming, every corner neat and every plant thriving in its little home. Mia guided them to the pool's deep end, where she taught them to check the water's chemical balance with the testing kit. She showed Jack how to dip the test strips and read the color changes, while Leo recorded the numbers on a small notebook. Together they adjusted the chemicals, ensuring the pH and chlorine levels were safe for swimming later that afternoon. When all tasks were complete, Mia smiled and said, "You've done more than clean my pool and yard. You've shown respect and care that will last far beyond today." When Mia opened the sliding door the next afternoon, the sun's gentle warmth fell across the spotless deck, reminding her of how important it is to care for special things rather than take them for granted. She smiled as Jack arrived carrying a lightweight pool noodle and a bright yellow bucket full of beach toys, eager to show her how much he valued the trust she had placed in him. Leo followed shortly after, balancing 2 pairs of colorful goggles and a soft towel emblazoned with funny cartoon fish, his steps light with excitement and gratitude. Mia greeted them and announced that today they would enjoy a reward for their hard work, allowing them to swim together as long as they asked first and followed the rules. She explained that the pool was like a precious gem that required attention, kindness, and respect, and that their chores had proven they could be responsible guardians of such treasure. Jack carefully dropped the noodle into the shallow end and then grabbed the rim, lowering himself in slowly so that the cool water folded gently around him. Leo adjusted his goggles before diving his head under the surface, blowing bubbles through his nose in a happy display of skill and confidence. Mia encouraged them to practice simple dives and taught Leo how to bend his knees just so before pushing off the tile edge for a graceful entry. Jack tried a chicken dive with his arms folded, giggling when he felt like a floppy bird crashing into the water and then bursting through the surface in laughter. Mia showed them a new game called Guard the Float, where one person tried to tip an inflatable turtle while the other defended it by pushing gentle waves back. They formed teams of 2 and took turns defending and challenging each other, splashing softly and cheering at every near miss and triumphant save. The game built cooperation and friendly competition, teaching them how to work together and respect each other's space even while having fun. After the game, Mia led them to the deck's edge and offered each a small bowl of fresh watermelon cubes, the bright red fruit cool and sweet on the hot afternoon. Jack and Leo ate eagerly, their laughter ringing through the yard as they recounted which dive had been their favorite and which trick they most wanted to master. Mia used the moment to remind them how important it was to stay hydrated and take breaks when the sun felt too strong, showing them how to apply safe sunscreen evenly. As they re-entered the pool for more swimming, Mia pulled out a soft floating mat and invited them to lie down and watch the clouds drift above from the water's gentle cradle. Leo pointed out shapes in the sky, spotting a dragon and then a sailboat, and Jack added that he saw 2 dolphins dancing across the horizon. Mia laughed and told them how she had dreamed of becoming a marine biologist so that she could study those very creatures up close in real life. The conversation changed from games to dreams as the 3 friends paddled side by side, sharing hopes for future adventures they could plan together. Mia suggested they design a special pool party to invite other neighborhood kids next weekend, promising that Jack and Leo would be her honored helpers in charge of games. Both boys agreed eagerly, brainstorming ideas like a treasure hunt, water relay races, and a floating hopscotch game using color tiles. Mia grabbed a notebook, wrote down each idea, and promised to draw up a map for the treasure hunt to make everyone feel like real explorers. After more swimming, they gathered towels on the deck and sat beneath the striped patio umbrella, sipping lemonade that Mia had mixed with a hint of mint from her garden. The soft breeze carried the fragrance of mint and jasmine, and as they rested, Mia shared memories of summers spent fishing with her grandfather beside a quiet lake. Jack and Leo listened in wonder, asking questions about different fish species and the funny sounds frogs made at night after the sun set. Mia promised that someday she would take them to the lake to fish and camp, giving them another chance to learn about nature and appreciate quiet moments. When the afternoon began to fade, she led them in a final round of Marco Polo, teaching them clear rules about safe play and listening for the caller's voice. Their voices echoed clearly over the water as each person tried to tag the other with gentle taps and well-timed guesses. Finally, as the golden sun dipped low, Mia called out "Pool closed," and they climbed out of the water to stack floats neatly by the shed. Jack folded the noodle in half and leaned it against the wall, while Leo snapped the lid on the toy bucket and carried it inside for later cleanup. Mia checked her chalkboard and erased the completed tasks for that day, drawing a happy sun next to each boy's name as a sign of a job well done. Jack and Leo stood beside her, feeling proud of their work and grateful for the fun they had earned through honest effort. Mia looked at both of them and said, "You have shown that respect and honesty can turn any mistake into a chance for friendship and trust." Jack nodded earnestly and replied, "Thank you for letting us learn from our mistake and for sharing your pool with us." Leo added, "We will always ask first, and we promise to keep doing our chores even when there is no reward waiting." Mia felt a warm glow in her heart and invited them to join her for ice cream that she had in the freezer, a final treat for a busy day of lessons and laughter. They washed their hands and walked inside together, talking about their favorite part of the day and making plans for the weekend's party. From the window, Mia watched the pool one last time, its surface calm and clear, reflecting the pale sky as if inviting only kind and caring swimmers. She closed the door gently and hung a small friends-only sign by the pool ladder, a reminder that permission and respect would always come first. As Mia settled into her chair with a cone of sweet vanilla ice cream, she thought about how standing up for herself had created a summer of learning, laughter, and new friendships that she would never forget, filling her with quiet pride. The next morning, Mia awoke excited for the special pool party she had planned all week, stretching and yawning as soft golden light filtered through the bright curtains and warmed her arms like a gentle hug, filling her with anticipation for a day full of laughter and fun. She checked her notebook where she had drawn a colorful treasure map for the games and carefully read through the list of decorations, snacks, and activities she would need to set up before her friends arrived. Mia gathered coils of blue, yellow, and green streamers that shimmered in the light, bright balloons in matching hues, and biodegradable confetti shaped like tiny stars, laying each item neatly on the dining table. She filled clear plastic bags with sweet treats including juicy fruit slices, crunchy popcorn drizzled with butter, and small cupcakes topped with rainbow sprinkles, sealing each bag with a twist tie and a sticker of a smiling dolphin. Then she clipped handmade invitation cards to a string with wooden clothespins, each card hand-lettered in neat blue ink and illustrated with cheerful pool floats, arranging them so they hung like decorations across her bedroom window. Mia admired how the invitations swayed gently in the breeze, their bright colors promising a fun day ahead and making her smile at how inviting they looked. Next, she set out sturdy plastic buckets and fine mesh nets for the treasure hunt, placing one at each corner of the yard and marking their spots with small paper flags that had tiny X's drawn on them. She tested each net by gently dipping it into the pool to make sure it would hold the weight of plastic coins, toy rings, and little treasure chests without tearing or bending out of shape. Mia grabbed a roll of clear tape and attached printed rules near the pool ladder on colorful cardstock, including instructions for safe diving, walking slowly, and speaking kindly to each other. She walked around the entire deck, inspecting each plank for splinters, and wiped away any dust or spots with a damp cloth until every inch looked clean and welcoming. Satisfied that the deck was perfect, Mia moved to the garden area where she hung round paper lanterns from low tree branches, spacing them evenly so they form a glowing path at party time. Then she tied lengths of ribbon around the tree trunks to match the color scheme, knotting each bough carefully to prevent the fabric from slipping loose in the wind. Mia paused to clip small solar lights under each lantern so they would glow softly when dusk arrived, making the yard seem magical and bright even after the sun went down. She tested each light switch, waiting to see that none flickered or dimmed too soon, and felt pleased when they shone steadily like tiny stars in her backyard sky. Next, Mia arranged beach chairs around the pool in a neat semicircle, spacing them far enough apart so everyone could sit comfortably and still have room for towels and coolers. She stacked soft extra towels on a small side table and placed a basket filled with sunscreen bottles, wide-brimmed hats, and colorful sunglasses for any guest who might need some protection. Then she set up a large striped beach umbrella near the deep end, twisting its pole open until a canopy provided ample shade, and anchored it with a heavy base so it would not tip over. Mia adjusted the angle of the umbrella to block the strongest rays of the early afternoon sun and to keep the deck cool for anyone who wanted to rest out of the water. After checking the weather forecast on her phone and seeing clear skies all day with a gentle breeze, she felt confident that the party would be warm and enjoyable. Mia brewed a fresh pitcher of iced tea with lemon slices and fragrant mint leaves from her garden, stirring gently before pouring it into clear glass bottles with striped paper straws. She arranged the iced tea bottles on a low wooden shelf near the patio entrance so guests could help themselves to a cool drink whenever they felt thirsty. She imagined her friends laughing as they helped themselves to a chilled bottle and felt the cold glass in their hands. Next, Mia placed a small waterproof speaker on a side table near the shallow end, testing music softly with a summer playlist that mixed upbeat songs and calm tunes for a perfect party vibe. She tapped her foot softly to the beat, picturing the music filling the air with cheerful summer tunes that would make everyone smile. She double-checked that the speaker's battery was full, confirming that it would keep playing through the afternoon without stopping suddenly. Then she dropped floating waterproof LED lights into the pool, making sure each one bobbed on the surface and blinked in soft colors to add sparkle when the sun began to set. Mia filled a cool box with ice packs and bottled water, placing it in an easy spot by the deck steps so guests could grab a quick refresh anytime. She walked over to the picnic table under the tree and smoothed a red and white checkered tablecloth until it lay perfectly flat, then centered colorful plastic plates and napkins on top. Mia stacked matching cups and arranged sets of utensils wrapped in napkin rings beside the plates, making the table look neat and ready for snacks. Then she laid out an assortment of finger foods, crunchy veggie sticks with dip, cubes of cheese, savory crackers, and a bowl of mixed nuts seasoned with a pinch of salt and pepper. Mia tasted a single nut to ensure it was fresh and not stale, nodding in approval at its crisp texture and rich flavor before listing it as ready for guests. After that, she placed 2 large bowls of fruit punch on the table, garnishing each with slices of strawberry and pineapple floating on top like edible decorations. She added ice cubes made from frozen fruit juice so they would cool the punch without watering down the flavor as they melted. Mia wiped down the legs of the table and the seats of the chairs to remove any morning dew or dust that might fall onto the snacks. Then she collected all the pool toys from the toy box, including balls, rings, and inflatable animals, placing them neatly near the shallow end for easy access. Mia glanced at her setup list and ticked off each planned activity, confident that she had prepared everything just as she had envisioned. She looked at her clock and realized it was almost 10 o'clock, the exact time her friends were scheduled to arrive at the front gate. Mia walked to the front gate, propped it open a few inches with a small smooth rock, and added a handwritten sign that said, "Welcome to Mia's Pool Party," in bright letters. She stepped back to the deck area and took one last slow tour, inhaling the fresh scents of chlorine, grass, flowers, and sweet snacks all mixed into the air. She felt a flutter of joy and pride as she inhaled the happy mix of scents in the warm air, knowing these memories would last long after the party ended. Satisfied that everything was inviting and ready, Mia hurried inside to change into her favorite swimsuit and grab her personalized beach towel with her name embroidered on it. She paused for a moment in front of the mirror, brushing her damp hair back behind her ears and smiling at the energetic girls staring back at her. With a final nod of excitement, Mia carried a wooden tray piled with freshly cut watermelon, grapes, and berries out to the deck, ready to greet her friends and start the celebrations. When the first guest, Sarah, stepped through the gate in a bright pink swimsuit, Mia ran forward and greeted her with a high five, thrilled that her careful planning had paid off. Omar arrived next, balancing a plate piled with fruit slices and mini muffins, his eyes widening as he took in the colorful decorations hanging overhead. Lena appeared at the patio, carrying a stack of towels embroidered with everyone's name, and she smiled broadly as Mia showed her where to place them. Rahul and Isha came together, each holding a small favor bag filled with stickers and toy rings, eager to see what games would begin first. Mia led her friends to the shallow end and demonstrated the treasure hunt, explaining how they would dive for plastic coins and search for treasure chests hidden under floating nets. The children cheered and clapped, diving in with excitement as coins and rings glinted beneath the surface like scattered jewels. Mia watched as Sarah and Lena raced each other to the first net, resurfacing triumphantly with coins clutched in their hands. Omar and Rahul teamed up to gather rings from the deep end, encouraging each other with shouts of, "You can do it," echoing over the water. Isha found the little treasure chest and held it aloft, its tiny lid filled with foil-wrapped chocolate coins that sparkled in the sunlight. Mia handed out small prizes to each child, reminding them that the real treasure was the fun they had while playing together. Next, she introduced a water balloon toss, demonstrating how to catch and toss without letting the balloons burst until they counted to 3. Sarah and Omar formed a team, tossing balloons back and forth in careful arcs that nearly reached the pool's midpoint. On the other side, Lena and Rahul practiced their toss until one balloon popped, soaking them both and sending giggles across the yard. Mia gave them each a fresh balloon and urged them to try again, praising their persistence as they mastered the toss. After the balloon game, Mia invited everyone to play ring toss with pool noodles standing upright in buckets, showing how to aim for the bases. Each child took turns, laughing when rings slid off the noodle heads and cheering when they landed perfectly around the bright plastic posts. Mia then gathered her friends near the picnic table for a quick snack break, offering lemonade and watermelon that she had prepared earlier. They sat under the striped umbrella, sipping drinks and munching fruit while talking about their favorite summer memories. Omar told a story about fishing with his grandfather, and Lena giggled as she described building sandcastles at the beach last year. Mia listened and joined in, encouraging everyone to share ideas for upcoming school projects and summer plans. When they finished eating, Mia led the group back to the pool for a round of Marco Polo, explaining the rules clearly so everyone could play safely. She closed her eyes and called out Marco, and the children replied Polo, their voices bouncing over the sparkling water. Laughter rang out as each player splashed gently and tried to tag someone before being called by name. Mia tagged Rahul gently and praised his quick movements, reminding the others that fun and safety went hand in hand. After several rounds, Mia taught a new game called Bubble Chase, where they tried to catch floating soap bubbles on their fingertips. She dipped a bubble wand into soapy water and waved it, sending dozens of iridescent bubbles drifting above the pool. The children reached and leaped, popping bubbles with squeals of delight as they burst into tiny showers of rainbow light. Mia then announced a brief break for face painting, setting up a chair under a shady tree and pulling out safe washable paint sticks. She painted small dolphins and starfish on each child's cheek, her careful strokes creating colorful designs that matched the pool's theme. Sarah admired her painted starfish and thanked Mia for making her feel like a mermaid, prompting happy laughter from everyone else. Once all faces were painted, Mia led her friends back to the deck to play a floating ring relay, dividing them into teams of 2. Each pair carried a filled bucket of rings from one end of the pool to the other, passing the rings across the water and racing against the clock. Omar and Lena won the relay by a splash, both cheering and hugging as Mia awarded them with extra points on the treasure map. Mia tallied the points on her notepad and announced that every participant had shown great teamwork and sportsmanship. She invited everyone to cool off in the deep end, demonstrating a simple dive that created a gentle wave for friends to ride. The children paddled and floated, taking turns riding the small waves and practicing their underwater turns. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Mia dropped floating LED lights into the pool, explaining that they would glow once dusk arrived. With the lights bobbing softly on the surface, Mia gathered everyone by the deck and handed out chilled towels and warm hugs. She thanked her friends for sharing the day with her and reminded them that permission, respect, and kindness were the true keys to any great adventure together. As they packed up and said goodbyes at the front gate, Mia realized that this day of games and laughter had given her memories she would treasure long after the party ended. The morning after the pool party, Mia opened the sliding door and stepped onto the deck, her eyes widening at the sight of colorful confetti scattered across the wooden planks and tangled among the garden flowers, each piece a reminder of last night's laughter and games. She inhaled deeply the mixed scents of fresh grass, chlorine, and sweet cake crumbs, letting the morning breeze carry away the weariness she felt in her muscles from hosting such a lively celebration, yet feeling a proud glow in her chest. As she walked along the edge of the pool, Mia ran her fingers through the bobbing LED lights still floating, gently lifting each one out of the water and placing them in a small plastic bin she had set near the shed for cleaning and storage. Jack arrived before the sun climbed too high in the sky, carrying the mesh nets and bright yellow buckets they had used for the treasure hunt, smiling apologetically as his shoes crunched on the tiny bits of torn paper. Leo followed a moment later, broom and dustpan in hand, sweeping up the scattered confetti and candy wrappers with long, careful strokes that revealed the wood's natural grain beneath the party mess. Mia handed Jack a large box labeled pool party decorations that she had taped together the night before, and he carefully folded the streamers and tucked them inside alongside the deflated balloons. Leo swept the confetti into a neat pile at the corner of the deck, then used a small handheld vacuum to catch the final bits that the broom bristles could not reach, making a soft whirring sound in the quiet morning. While they worked, Mia rinsed the pool toys with a garden hose, scrubbing away any clinging soap bubbles or sticky juice spots before stacking the inflatables in their storage rack by the shed door. She asked Jack to gather the water balloons that had floated into the shallow end and carry them to the compost bin for disposal, explaining that porous biodegradable balloons would help enrich the soil. Leo emptied the melted ice from the cooler onto the flower beds, gently warning Jack to avoid stepping on the marigolds and petunias that had been planted around the yard's edge. Together, they wiped down the picnic table with a damp cloth, removing sticky fingerprints and stray bits of snack food before folding the tablecloth and storing it in a labeled drawer. Mia demonstrated how to collapse and secure the beach umbrella by twisting the metal pole in just the right direction, and Jack and Leo followed her example to lock it back into its carrying case. After the deck was clear of all party supplies, Mia led them to the garden, where she showed them how to use hedge shears to trim the bush that had grown over the path from the patio to the backyard gate. Jack held the branch steady while Mia guided his hands on the handles, teaching him the safest way to cut without snipping too close to the main stem and harming the plant. Leo gathered the cut branches and leaves into a green waste bin, pounding them down gently to make room for more yard trimmings before closing the lid securely. Mia handed Leo a pair of gloves and asked him to pull up the weeds that had sprouted between the paving stones around the pool, encouraging him to get as much of the root as possible to keep the area neat. Jack swept up the last of the leaves and petals with a sturdy broom, pushing them into a pile beneath the garden arbor and tying them into a bundle for composting later. When the garden chores were complete, Mia invited Jack and Leo inside for a snack, offering chilled lemonade that she had prepared with fresh mint leaves and slices of lemon from her backyard tree. They sat at the kitchen counter and sipped the sweet drink, the coolness sliding down their throats and easing any soreness from the morning's work while they talked about their favorite parts of the party. Jack said he loved the treasure hunt because it made him feel like an explorer discovering hidden gems, and Leo admitted that decorating the yard had been messy but fun when he saw how bright everything looked. Mia smiled and told them that teamwork made the work lighter and the results more rewarding, reminding them that helping each other was the true treasure of the day. After their break, Mia suggested they take one last swim together to celebrate the end of cleanup and the start of a new week, and both boys cheered as they changed into their swimsuits again. The three friends took turns diving gracefully into the pool, practicing the flips Mia had taught them and timing their entries to create the smallest splash possible. Jack tried a backwards fall dive that made a soft plunk, and Leo counted out loud as he lay on his back to float across the water's surface with gentle kicks from his feet. Mia watched them glide through the water with pride and joined them, doing a simple butterfly stroke before resting on the pool's edge and dangling her legs to feel the cool water float around her ankles. They laughed as Leo challenged Jack to a friendly race from the shallow end to the deep end, splashing and kicking until they reached the ladder in a blur of movement. Mia timed their race with her stopwatch and declared them both winners because they had tried their best and supported each other along the way. As the sun reached its highest point, Mia led them out of the pool and to the deck where she handed them warm towels, reminding them to dry off properly to avoid catching a chill. Jack and Leo sat on the deck steps, drying their hair and chatting about their plans for the rest of the summer, each promising to stay in touch and help her with future events. Mia made plans with them to host a small picnic at her family's lake cabin in a few weeks, inviting more friends to join for a day of fishing and hiking. The thought of another summer adventure filled all three with excitement, and they talked about what snacks and games they would bring to the lake. Mia collected her notebook and jotted down ideas for the cabin trip, listing supplies such as fishing rods, hiking boots, sandwiches, and extra water bottles. Jack offered to bring his camera to take pictures, and Leo said he would pack his guitar for a possible campfire sing-along in the evening. After they had made their plans, Mia walked them back to the front gate, handing each boy a small seed packet as a parting gift to plant at home and remember their day together. Jack thanked her and said he would plant his in his grandmother's garden so they could grow flowers together when she came to visit. Leo smiled and said he planned to find the brightest spot in his backyard to sow his seeds and watch them grow tall. Mia waved goodbye as the boys walked down the path, their backpacks bouncing lightly on their shoulders in the afternoon sun. She closed the gate gently and turned back toward the house, her heart full of warmth at the friendships she had built and the memories they had created. As Mia passed by the pool one last time, she paused to run her hand along the smooth tile edge, feeling the cool surface beneath her fingers and the promise of many more days of laughter. That evening, Mia sat under the patio lights with her parents and showed them photos of the party, telling stories of Jack and Leo's transformation from pranksters to responsible friends, feeling proud of all that had happened. As the evening sky deepened into shades of violet and indigo, Mia quietly switched off the backyard lights and gently closed the pool gate, feeling a warm sense of pride and closure that spread through her chest, gratitude warming her spirit. She gathered the plastic chairs and carefully carried them into the shed, stacking each one neatly to protect them from any sudden summer storms or gusts of wind that might arise, a soft smile on her lips. The colorful floats and beach toys were deflated and folded with precision, then tucked into a large waterproof bin labeled Summer Fun, whose bright sticker Mia had designed herself, memories dancing in her mind. Mia paused as she passed the garden path, taking a moment to admire the soft glow of solar lanterns hanging from the tree branches and the neat lines of trimmed hedges she and her friend had worked on, hope glowing in her chest. Inside the house, she set the hose reel back in its place and rinsed off the nozzle before gently hanging the hose on its hook, careful to drain every last drop of water, joy settling in her heart. She heard her parents' voices drifting from the kitchen, where the comforting smell of warm bread and simmering soup promised a cozy dinner later that evening, gratitude warming her spirit. Mia wiped her hands on a towel and walked through the sliding glass door, pausing to look at the clean water's surface still reflecting faint stars in the dark sky, a soft smile on her lips. In the kitchen, her mother smiled as she turned from the stove and greeted Mia with a hug, praising her for hosting such a wonderful party and teaching her neighbors about respect and teamwork, memories dancing in her mind. Her father joined in, ruffling Mia's hair and nodding in approval as he set a bowl of steaming soup on the table and placed warm bread rolls beside it, hope glowing in her chest. They sat together, sharing stories of the day's highlights, like the treasure hunt victories and the laughter that had echoed across the yard, joy settling in her heart. Mia recounted how Jack and Leo had surprised her with genuine apologies and how they had transformed from pranksters into helpful friends through honest effort, gratitude warming her spirit. Her mother listened thoughtfully, then suggested that Mia write down her experience in her journal so she could look back and remember the lessons she had learned, a soft smile on her lips. After dinner, Mia carried her leather-bound journal to her room and flipped through blank pages until she found a fresh spread waiting for her reflections, memories dancing in her mind. She wrote about the power of standing up for her boundaries, the value of empathy, and how guiding Jack and Leo had deepened her understanding of responsibility, hope glowing in her chest. Each sentence she penned was careful and deliberate, just like the tasks she had assigned to her friends during cleanup, capturing her thoughts in neat, flowing handwriting, joy settling in her heart. Mia included a small sketch of the inflatable alligator and turtle floats, noting how each one had played a part in teaching cooperation and respect, gratitude warming her spirit. She described the quiet satisfaction of seeing the deck sparkle like new under the morning sun and how the garden had felt more alive after they trimmed and tidied it together, a soft smile on her lips. After writing, she closed the journal with a soft snap and placed it on her bedside table where moonlight could reach it through the window, memories dancing in her mind. Before heading to bed, Mia changed into her favorite pajamas and rinsed off the last traces of pool water, washing away the chlorine scent from her skin, hope glowing in her chest. She hung her towel on a hook behind the bathroom door and arranged her swimsuit and goggles neatly in a drawer, ready for tomorrow's swim practice, joy settling in her heart. Back in her room, Mia opened the curtains slightly to glimpse the final flicker of lantern light outside and the calm surface of the pool shimmering in the dark, gratitude warming her spirit. She climbed into bed, pulling the soft covers up to her chin, and thought about how one determined voice had changed two boys' behavior for the better, a soft smile on her lips. Mia's mind replayed the sound of Jack's apology and Leo's promise, reminding her that honest communication could solve conflicts more effectively than anger alone, memories dancing in her mind. Sleepiness began to fill her eyelids, but she took one last moment to whisper a quiet thank you to the universe for giving her courage and kindness, hope glowing in her chest. With a contented sigh, Mia closed her eyes and let her thoughts drift to dreams of future pool adventures and friendship activities she could organize, joy settling in her heart. In her dream, she saw Jack and Leo helping younger children learn to swim, teaching them the same safety tips she had shared during the party, gratitude warming her spirit. She envisioned a small community garden flourishing nearby, where everyone pitched in just as they had in trimming her yard, growing flowers and vegetables together, a soft smile on her lips. Stars twinkled overhead in her dreamscape, reminding Mia of the simple beauty of cooperation and shared joy under the vast night sky, memories dancing in her mind. Meanwhile, downstairs, her parents peered into her room and smiled at the peaceful scene, proud of the confidence and leadership their daughter had shown, hope glowing in her chest. They turned off the hallway light and closed the doors softly, leaving Mia to her restful slumber and the satisfaction of a day well spent, joy settling in her heart. Outside, the pool area lay silent and still, its surface reflecting the glow of early morning moonbeams that peeked through branches, gratitude warming her spirit. The inflatable animals remained nestled in their bin, waiting patiently for the next summer day, when laughter and lessons would resume, a soft smile on her lips. As midnight approached, a light breeze stirred the leaves and carried the faint scent of night-blooming jasmine across the yard, memories dancing in her mind. Mia's dreams shifted toward plans for the cabin excursion, where she and her friends would fish, hike, and learn more about nature's wonders, hope glowing in her chest. She drifted in and out of sleep, her journal thoughts mingling with ideas for songs she'd teach around a campfire and stories she'd narrate by lantern light, joy settling in her heart. At some point, she murmured in her sleep, "Ask first, clean up, then have fun," words that had guided her actions earlier in the week, gratitude warming her spirit. In the early hours, the moonlight grew paler until it was swallowed by the soft glow of dawn, hinting at a new day of possibilities, a soft smile on her lips. Mia's eyelashes fluttered as she turned in her bed, ready to greet the sunrise with the same thoughtful care she had shown her pool and friends, memories dancing in her mind. When her alarm rang the next morning, she would wake with a sense of purpose, planning new ways to bring people together with respect and joy, hope glowing in her chest. And as the last trace of night faded from the sky, Mia's heart brimmed with hope that her summer story was only just beginning, joy settling in her heart.